Okay, great, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Well, so as to keep us on track, I will call the meeting of the August 12th, 2024 meeting of the Charter Township Meridian Planning Commission to order at 6:30. First on the agenda is our roll call. Commissioner Bloomer.
Present.
Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Rombach.
Here.
Commissioner Scales.
Here.
We know that Commissioner McConnell and Commissioner Snyder are not going to be here tonight, and I am here, Commissioner Shrewsbury. So there we go, thank you, we have a quorum. As Mr. Shorkey just mentioned, right now is public remarks. This is on anything on the agenda, so if anybody would like to speak during this point in time, you can do so now. Please fill out a sheet and hand it to Mr. Shorkey. Otherwise, we do have a public hearing. If you're here to talk about that, it probably makes more sense to do your remarks at that time. Okay, it looks like this is for the special use permit. Okay, wonderful. Is there anybody who would like to speak during this public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to approval of the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
Moved by Commissioner Bloomer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rombach. Any discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Schools.
I would like to add an item to our agenda, or if it's more appropriate, I can just speak to it during commissioner comments.
Ask that you, as you're here in the meeting, please keep your remarks quiet so that we can hear the meeting. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Scales.
And it's reference to our bylaws. I found an error in our bylaws, and there's a procedure that we need to follow to make the correction. Maybe I can just address it at our comment section.
Open comments.
And then we can set the process in motion to make the correction at our next meeting.
I think that makes sense to do it that way if you're comfortable with it, because I don't believe we're going to take any action on it today.
No, we can't take action on
Right,
it.
okay, excellent. Yep, let's do that then. So that would be the agenda as printed. Are there any other comments on approval of the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. Now we are at the approval of the minutes of the July 8th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Did motion to approve those minutes? Commissioner Scales? Oh, Commissioner Rombach, support. Any discussion?
I was actually going to move to amend the minutes.
Okay.
My last name is misspelled
Oh, I'm
throughout
sorry.
the minutes.
Okay.
Are you B-E-C-K?
B-A-C-K.
B-A-C-K?
Yep.
Oh, it's correct at the top.
It is.
That's, at least under present, that's at the beginning of the beginning of the minutes.
So
It's R-O-M.
If you go to page 3 and paragraph 1, 2.
We'll make that correction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
uncommon, but
I see it. So I'll move to approve the July 8th, 2024 minutes.
Thank you.
I will second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rombach with suggestion to amend. Are there any other corrections or comments on the minutes of the July 8th meeting? Commissioner Scales?
I have a comment. Our minutes before we approved them were included in the August 8th board meeting packet, and there were some errors in that set of minutes, but I see that they have been changed in these set of minutes.
They were in the August 8th.
They were in the August 8th, 302-page board packet.
That might have been because you adopted the resolution on the Urbana and they were sent. The timing was such that we got the minutes. I hadn't gone through them at that point. They needed them, and that's why you saw them. They needed to see the action.
The correction I saw in those stated a comment that I made reference to the downtown authority, and I never mentioned the downtown authority. But I see in these minutes that has been corrected.
Good.
So these are the official minutes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And did these get shared with the township board typically, or these are just published as our minutes?
These will be published tomorrow after I make the corrections. They'll go up on the township website.
Okay. But they don't get
They
resent?
don't, as a matter of course, don't go to the board.
Okay. Are they noted, when they're shared with the board for that purpose, are they noted as still being in draft form?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think those were noted as draft.
There's a little note at the beginning that says draft.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, corrections, changes, additions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Oh, wait, we've got it, I'm sorry, vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved with corrections. Thank you, sorry about that. We're on to communications.
Yes, you have a letter in there from the county controller's office about this regarding in-county materials management plan and the plan. I was asked to include that as communication to you, so that's in there for your information. You also have 3 emails in front of you regarding the special use permit public hearing tonight.
Thank you. I had a question about the Ingham County plan. Is that something that we should be giving feedback on? Is it something that the township board gives feedback on, or is it truly just an FYI? I didn't get a chance to read it in detail.
My impression is that it's an FYI. If you have comments, if you get them to me, I'll forward them up the food chain.
Okay,
And the whole time I was reading that, I kept thinking to myself, we have no authority under this thing.
okay. Yeah, it was interesting, but I didn't see it as being ours directly in the same way that certain other communications
It's a
would have
county
been.
issue, it's not even really a township issue. It's a county issue.
Okay. All right. If there are no other questions on communications, we will move into the public hearing on special use permit 24020, Okemos Local Investment. Opening the public hearing at 6:37.
Thank you very much. As noted, this is special use permit number 24020, Okemos Local Investments to construct an adult use marijuana provisioning center at 4360 South Hagedorn Road. Okemos Local Investments, the applicant is represented tonight. They have submitted a special use permit as required by our marijuana ordinances following the Board of Trustees approval of their adult use marijuana conditional license on May 9th, 2024. It's in the Research Park zoning. It matches, so it complies with the the zoning and the future land use. You see my analysis that was written up, and you've got all the attachments from the applicant. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, like I said, the applicant's here.
Thank you. Any questions for staff before we have the applicant?
I did have one, and it was on I believe, the traffic study. I think the traffic study is dated as of 2021.
We have brought this to the applicant's attention, and they are discussing, they're in talks with Row Engineering to get an update, right?
To get an update.
When that update comes in, so just so everyone is aware, this is a public hearing. The Planning Commission does not make a decision tonight. The next available meeting is when the Planning Commission will make a decision, when I get an updated traffic study or a letter from Row Engineering or the engineer that worked on it. I will then bring this back.
Yeah, so I understood based on I think there was a letter included that said they were saying, this was from a prior SUP, we're attaching it almost as reference.
That is correct. And like I said, we've talked to the applicant about that. He is working with Row Engineering to get an update.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Invite the applicant to,
If you have any comments, please.
please give us your name and your address before you start. Thank you.
Yes, Sam Pernick, 2515 West 13 Mile in Royal Oak in Oakland County. With Okemos Local Investments, thank you all so much. Really appreciate the time. We submitted our special use permit application. I don't know how many days ago it was, June or July, something like that. In any event, it's, I would say, fairly, the plans are basically the same as what we submitted for our conditional use approval. I think we made some changes to note the trees that were being taken out in the front of the property. Because our plan is to eventually, we don't have it on the plan here because it would be a separate sign application, but to put a sign up front to advertise the business, and the trees kind of block the property now because the property is currently just a house. And I think that's the only major change.
This is the,
Yes, that's the property. Yeah, so I think that's the only major change
yeah.
to the site plan. And we're very excited about the project. We are finishing up construction of a dispensary in Ecorse, Michigan, which is also involved the renovation of a house. And it is that project has been an ordeal. We had to redo the I-beam, and we had to redo all of the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, mechanical, all of that. So that's been a lot of fun. This house is in much better shape, so we're excited about that. There are certain challenges in terms of making sure that it's up to code, and so a lot of walls have to be knocked out. But our hope is to try to preserve kind of the overall feel of the area and kind of the character of the community. We wanted something that was going to fit in and kind of blend in, and not be not be gaudy or garish or anything like that. So anyway, that's kind of our overall plan. We think that the store will be called Good Vibes, so we're excited about that. And yeah, I guess I could take any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you. Commissioner Rebek?
Why houses?
Sorry?
Why houses? So this is a proposal to rezone for a house that's currently built that you would retrofit.
Clarification, this is not a rezoning.
Okay, I'm sorry. So let me rephrase. You mentioned you're working on a similar project in Ecorse where you're using an old house. Out of more curiosity, just why old houses?
Oh, well, it's not out of choice, but more just practicality. So in Ecorse, we ended up with a house because that was where we were zoned. And we felt like it was easier to renovate than to tear down and to rebuild. Now, in retrospect, maybe it would have been easier to tear down and rebuild, but I guess we tend to be a little bit more sentimental and trying not to totally demolish and trying to rehab. I used to work on the legalization campaign back in the day in 2017 and 2018. One of the things we talked about while working on the campaign was the positive impact that bringing cannabis facilities could have in the community. And so most of our developments, maybe all of them, have involved remodeling existing buildings. We haven't done any ground up yet. So we currently have a store in Belleville, which was a mostly vacant, so basically vacant, semi-dilapidated warehouse with an office and weeds growing and all that other stuff, and spent a lot of money, and now it's operating, it looks great, and it's doing well as a business. So philosophically, I don't know if that's, maybe the answer that you're looking for, but it's more of a philosophical bent to try to, not just come in and, push things out, but try to make something better that's already there. And from the perspective of this property in particular, we were concerned about the wetlands that surround it. So we thought, well, maybe that's going to be really difficult. We know that this parcel is already approved for a house. We're not going to have to deal with any, wetland or environmental type issues if we just work with what we already have. So we had some experience doing that, and we felt like that made the most sense.
So that, if I may, on a follow-up, you mentioned eCourse, you mentioned Belleville and now Okemos. I take it there's a management company somewhere over the top. So how many of these provisioning centers do you have total in the web?
Yeah, so it's not, there is a one management company, but I'm the main owner along with my business partner, Nick, who's in the, I don't know if that was required to be included, the ownership, but
There's something in there.
okay, it was in the conditional application. So my partner Nick and I, we run the stores, and so we have we've been open about 2 years in Belleville now. No fines, no citations. Fingers crossed. So we're very excited about that. No complaints, not a single, at least not that I know of. I asked the city, so they're very happy. We're investing a lot of money in Belleville. We gave $10,000 to the emergency food closet. We're, fixing up a park. We committed $100,000 to fix up a park behind us, and the city already had a grant for $80,000 for pickleball courts. So we're trying to get some state money to fix up the rest of it, because there's a lot of geese poop in the park. And so we'd like to have more trash cans. There are no trash cans there. So as we walk in, and so we're trying to have a positive impact on the community and not have something that's just like, well, I'm sure you've seen some of the advertisements on the freeway or some of these, with all due respect to our competitors, some of these stores that I think are not necessarily, anyway, we have a different style, so yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer had a question, and then Commissioner Scales.
The marijuana dispensaries that I'm familiar with were built from the ground up for that purpose. And basically, they have intense security. It's a remote controlled locked door. You have to show ID, have it scanned before they'll open the door to you. It sounds to me like at least it seems to me on the surface that converting a house might require extra attention to security because the building wasn't built from the ground up to be secure. What is your position on that?
Good question. I think that probably any building that you use for a dispensary will need additional security, because most commercial buildings just don't have the security that we would be comfortable with. I think we tend to go a little overboard on the security side. So at our facility in Belleville, for example, every door is a security door except the bathrooms. So every door that you go through requires some kind of, like a key fob, where you get scanned in. So from the outside to our vault, you have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4 doors or something like that. It's a lot. We've got it more intense in eCourse. What we did is we talked to the township board about this a few months ago. We caged in everything, our entire showroom, with wire mesh, this steel wire mesh, mainly for insurance reasons. So when you take something down to the studs, you take out the drywall, you attach this wire mesh to the studs, and so it surrounds the entire room, and then we cover it with either drywall or wood paneling or something like that. And so it's a vault, essentially. So we do that for insurance reasons because, if your product is in a vault, it's insurable, right? So that's our new procedure, and so any building that we were doing would require that. So whether it's whether it's an existing commercial or whether it's a house. So that's our, that's one thing that we do that I think is pretty thorough, and I don't know of many other places that do that. I haven't heard of it. I think maybe I heard of one other place that did it. It's certainly more expensive. Something else that we do, in addition to having, you've got to have all the cameras and the glass breaks and the sensors and the yada, yada, yada. So that's all a given, right? That's all just the normal bells and whistles. We surround the property with either bollards or with planter boxes, which are covered, basically a facade for these concrete bunker blocks, I'm sorry. So in Belleville, we got these 2-ton bunker blocks dropped off to surround the property, which is an ordeal because you have to get it was like a mini crane or something, have a big machine to move them into place. We had 50 to 100 of them. It was a lot. It's a lot because it's a big property. We didn't have the space to do it in E-course because it would. So we have bollards in E-course. Those metal posts. So one of the big challenges in the cannabis industry is they call it a smash and grab, where somebody will steal a car and then they'll run it into a building, and they will just try to steal the product or something like that. So that's a problem, and so. That's just something that we do on all of our locations to make sure that we're not dealing with that. But that's something that most commercial businesses don't do. The post office has it, right? I don't know even if banks have that, but banks have glass doors, right? We don't have. All of our doors are steel doors. So, in 10 years and 15 years, maybe we won't need to do that. It's not necessarily the most welcoming. If it's a steel door, we'll paint it and we'll put some sort of something on the door or something like that to make it more welcoming. But it's better than a glass door. So hopefully that answers your question. But
So in other words, even though it may look on the outside like a renovated home, it's actually got the security necessary for your type of business.
Yeah, it's very aggressive. It's very, very aggressive. Yeah, we tried cutting through the wire mesh. It took a few hours because the problem is when you put that up, try to change something. Try to change the electrical, right? It's a huge pain in the behind. So we had to, for the entrance, the way we've set it up is we have a front desk person who works security, right? So they do security and front desk. They're an armed guard. And so there's a window, right? Just like you'd see at a doctor's office or something. Our window is bulletproof glass, right? And so that's something else that we do. And it's not like the crappy, if I can use that term, bulletproof glass that looks really bad. It's the expensive stuff that looks really nice, like it, more like a bank, right? Which, we wish we didn't have to do that, but it's more about deterrence. So, I guess I didn't mention the armed guard, right? We have an armed guard, so they carry a weapon and they're insured and all of that. So we think that's important. It's mainly, I would say, it's mainly for deterrence, right? Obviously, they're able to use, if they need to, they're trained to use their weapon, right? But it's mainly about deterrence, making sure that folks know that we take security really seriously, right? And I would say where they mainly are utilized is the customer is getting a little aggressive or something like that. So.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks
sorry.
very much. No, that's okay. No,
No, I have a tendency to go on, so I
appreciate the
apologize.
information. Commissioner Scales, you had a question also?
Yeah, listening to you generated more questions in my mind, so I have a few questions for
Sure.
you. One specifically, where in Belleville is your facility located? Is it in Van Buren Township or the city of it?
It's in the city proper,
And the address is?
510 Savage Road. We are just on the other side of the railroad tracks, believe it or not.
I used to live in Belleville.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Where in Belleville?
familiar. I lived in what used to be known as the Lemon Tree,
Okay.
right on the lake.
Okay.
You talked about security, and I'm listening to your answer as it went on and on. I think your most vulnerable point is probably the transportation of your product. How do you plan to secure the transportation of your product?
So that's a great question. So the state regulations are very strict when it comes to transportation.
Yes.
We don't actually do any of the transportation. We're not allowed to. So someone who owns a retailer is not allowed to own, they call it a secure transporter. And those are armed and heavily regulated. They're unmarked vans that come up. So, so we are not involved in the transportation of it, to answer your question.
You hire somebody, don't you?
Well, we pay them, so we'll order something from a vendor, right? And they'll drop it off. So to be honest, we're not really involved in the logistics or the way in which they do that. I don't mean to sound too ignorant about it, but from our perspective, it shows up.
Okay.
We pay, we don't even pay the fee. Normally, there's a shipping minimum, $5,000 for free shipping. So we try to get the free shipping. Sorry, I don't mean to be. This is just my honest experience as a retail owner. So we order it, they send it to us. They say, it gets dropped off during our business hours. We have, a separate entrance where it gets, in the back where it gets, brought in. And it gets brought into our vault, and we count it, and we weigh it, and that's that. So yeah, we're not involved in the transportation, fortunately. But I agree, that is certainly a risk.
Thank you.
Of course.
You said you had other questions too?
No, he gave me the address.
Okay.
I want to go down to Belleville and look at it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we'd be happy to give you a tour, or if anybody wants a tour, yeah, and you can reach out to the city.
I like surprise visits.
Sorry?
I like surprise visits.
Surprise visits are great too, so no problem.
But thank you.
All right. Any other questions from commission members for the applicant? All right, thank you very much. We will go to the portion of the meeting where we hear public comment from members of the audience. So you're welcome to sit down for a moment.
Okay,
And we may call you back up after we hear from the public if there are any further questions that public comment generates for us. But otherwise, we are good with you for the moment.
thank you so much for your time, really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I do have one green sheet for public
see a
comment.
couple more
It
out
looks like there might be other people who have filled some out. Yes. Yep.
Assuming I know how to work this thing. Push this to
Yeah,
start.
Push the start. I think it's push,
Start and stop.
yep, start and stop, and then hit repeat when
Repeat
it's
for the
the
reset.
next person. Yep. Okay, so I've got two public comments here. Just a reminder of our public comment process. You will have 3 minutes to speak. You'll be a timer. You'll see the lights change as it gets close to the end of your time. Please refrain from any personal statements about anybody, so just share your thoughts with us. And it is our practice not to respond to the public comment directly, but again, what you say may generate questions that we'd have for other people. So first person I have is Monel Schroff, and if I have mispronounced your name, please let me know, and then just give us your name and your address before you start speaking. All right. See if that works.
Good evening. My name is Monal Shroff, and I live at 2735 Lupine Drive, Okemos. I'm just here, and I'm representing a large community. Not a lot of people could make it. But our community is really concerned about this dispensary that is coming up for several different reasons. I know probably as citizens, we don't know what we can do now because we feel like we are too late into the game. But if there is any way, there is anything that can be done, we would really, really like to have the committee reconsider at least the SUP licensing that has been given to this dispensary. We feel that the request standards and the SUP applicant hasn't really demonstrated that the project will not adversely affect or be hazardous to the neighboring use, and then it will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the surrounding properties of the community. And I'm a public health professional. I have been, and I have lived in Meridian Township for the last 15 years. This has been something, this is a community that we really have liked and enjoyed for several different reasons. And I think the biggest concern for us is that this is just too close to schools. Okemos School District is supposed to be one of the leading school districts in Michigan. And we are already fighting a lot of different issues in our community. And we just don't want one other kind of problem that, is going to come into our community. And I think as I heard the applicant just talk about the security and just the transportation, and also the traffic that we are all really concerned about. Just in last, 1.5 years, I live right on Jolly, and the number of accidents. My daughter goes to a tutoring lesson right opposite. There is a taekwondo school right opposite where the dispensary is going to come out, and we just feel that it is just too close to any of the family kind of businesses that exist in that strip mall. This dispensary is nothing close to anything that our community needs. And as the applicant was saying, this cannot get integrated into our community in the Meridian Township. It's going to stick out, and it's going to create a lot of different problems. So I just urge the committee. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate this.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then the next person I have is Tanner. Please, just tell us what it is and give us your address. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanu Arora. My address is 3557 Chippendale Circle, Okemos, Michigan. I'm here. I know some of my friends were not able to come here today, but I have 3 kids right now, 3 teenagers, and they all go to Okemos High School. My concern right now is how it is beneficial for our community right now. Okemos is right now one of the best places to live in. We as an immigrant, I'm a proud US citizen, but we as an immigrant moved to Okemos, there was just one reason, just for our kids. I moved from Portland, Oregon, I lived in Washington, and we had same issues going on over there. My concern is, if we are talking about the security, who will be taking care? Because I was in all the previous meetings when it comes to the Jolly Road marijuana dispensary, and I understood from them that the police officers will be, they will be the one who will be taking care of the security in case anything will show up. They won't have any personal security people on the dispensary by itself. So I'm a little concerned why we are paying for their security. And are you taking into consideration that part when we are discussing about the security? Secondly, there are so many kids. They're walking around. It's a neighborly town. It's a community that we are proud of. Do you think that it's going to help in any ways having a dispensary, and in fact having 4 or 3 or 2 dispensaries? So I would just request you to think about that and take into this consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the last form that I have for public comment. If there are no others, I will close the public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Do you want to give public comment?
Yeah, am I on?
Take it back to the planning commission and see if you.
Yeah, I'm going to close the public hearing because you've had a chance to speak. If any of the commissioners have questions for you, we'll call you up again to speak again. But yeah, not necessarily because you've already had a chance at the microphone. So close the public hearing at 7:05 and move to commissioner comments or questions, if there's anything. I know Commissioner Shorkey, you shared this at the beginning of the meeting, but for the benefit of those who may have come in after you said that, just sort of talk about the process and the steps in this process, what the Planning Commission does, and then what the Township Board does.
So once again, this is a public hearing. The Planning Commission does not make a decision tonight. By their bylaws, they will make a decision at a future meeting. That meeting will happen. The applicant has been asked to get an updated traffic assessment, and he's working on that. When we receive that, that'll be on the next agenda. The planning commission will then make a decision. Their decision is a recommendation. This application, whether they recommend approval or denial, will be then forwarded to the township board, who will have the ultimate authority on making the decision on whether this is approved.
Thank you. So this is a step in a longer process. If no one else has questions, this is normally where we would do a straw poll vote in terms of support for the recommendation. If you feel comfortable doing that tonight, we can do that. Or if you want to wait for the traffic study or the pending information. Commissioner Scales, please.
I just ask for a resolution to approve, be prepared for us at our next meeting. If there's no objection.
A straw poll, those inclined to support. This is not a binding vote. This is a support the preparation of a motion to approve.
The only problem I've got is we're missing 2 members. We have a voting quorum, but we're missing 2 members, and I
Right.
don't want to do anything that might put pressure on them when they come back to the meeting.
I think knowing those 2 members, they would be comfortable going there, voting their conscience
That's true.
if they didn't agree or they had concerns. I think
Yeah.
I think I'd be comfortable going with that recommendation and
Okay.
knowing that
Okay.
obviously there may be changes based on members who were not here or any additional information.
And one more time, it's worth repeating that you're not bound by your directive to tell me to prepare that resolution. You have in the past voted again, the opposite direction. So, but I will prepare that at your direction and have that when this comes up again.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, next on tonight's agenda is unfinished business. We have none. Other business, planning commission discussion, and just for the benefit of everyone else, I know we have a couple of things on our planning commission discussion list that we were going to do at our last meeting that ended up getting canceled because the meeting facility was in use for registered voter training, I think, staff training. So Commissioner Shorkey and I messaged with one another and decided to split this up into a couple of meetings to not overload any one meeting. So I appreciate you
Sure.
doing that. And first
And,
one is parking.
If this works out, with your permission, I might just make this a regular thing. I do a lot of environmental Zoom calls and stuff like that, and every once in a while, there's something that comes up. It's not really an issue, but it might be informative, and I might just inform you.
I would appreciate that.
But this is the first thing. I've been asked about this a lot. You guys, I've told you guys in the past that we have been for a while behind the scenes doing some work on our off-street parking ordinance, and I asked Associate Planner Chapman to prepare something to just a quick update on the kind of work we've done. Again, we are not ready to come forward with a draft. I don't have an ETA for that, but we have looked at joint use and off-street parking requirements. We have looked at spaces required. We're looking at, in a lot of cases, trying to lower the number of required spaces and bring them more in line with, common, what we see in the real world now. American Disabilities Act requirements, our parking ordinance is old enough that it doesn't have those references. We're looking at perimeter landscape updates to our landscaping, parking lot deferral updates, parking lot reduction. There's some stuff you can do to lower the number of required parking spots, with one of which is by providing extra bicycle spots. And our bicycle parking standards, we've been looking at that. And finally, we've been looking at EV station requirements too, because we don't have any of those at the moment. So I can try to answer questions, but mostly if you get too far afield from a high level view, then what I would end up doing is telling you, I'll go back and get some information, be back. But I don't have an ETA right now, but that is kind of what we've been looking at vis-a-vis off-street parking ordinances.
Any questions for Mr. Shorkey? Commissioner Bloomer? I'm sorry, Brooks?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at you.
It doesn't matter.
I see behind it in the back of my
Yeah.
head. Go ahead, Commissioner
Thought
Brooks.
you were faking me out.
No, no.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
That's okay. For the EV station section, is that, I don't know how far along you are, but have you looked at, is there potential local or federal funding that could be provided to developers who would be improving lots by doing that?
I don't have specifics,
Sure.
but I have heard, yes, there are grants available for applicants who wish to construct them. If you're asking, are there things that the township would provide for a private development? I think outside of, I think I'd have to look into that.
Okay, well, I think I meant more like at the state or federal level, if
Yeah.
there were funds for
Yeah.
EV.
But I feel like that would be like on the applicant to look
Yeah.
into those. Now, could we help them and guide them through that? Maybe, but.
Right, yeah. My follow-up comment about that one was, I like it, and I think it's appropriate at some level, but then it also makes me, I like all of these things that are in here, but some of them, like that one, makes me cautious about what the costs would be if we were to put something like that in the ordinance, and there was currently funding, but then that would go away at some point.
I don't think it's in the written, I don't think we're looking at it in terms of a mandate. Maybe at a certain size, like, hey, you're a big box store, put a
Okay.
couple, something. I don't know that for a fact.
Yep.
I want to be clear.
This is all
It's more along the
speculation.
lines of, if you want to put them in, what do you need to do? Does that make more sense?
Yes. So we're looking at not mandating something like an EV,
Generally
speaking.
That's a general statement.
General statements.
Yes.
These are all general statements.
Yes.
That can be
Yes.
retracted in the future.
We haven't even put everything into a single draft yet. We still have it separated by sections.
Right, okay.
Okay.
All right, I have another question, but
No, go ahead.
go. All right, so my other question about I like the landscape stuff. Stuff is a technical term that I've read about in ordinances. And is that, I hadn't thought about the bicycle by removing parking spots, then we were expanding the bicycle lots.
I mean, there's a cap on it,
spaces.
but yes.
Right, sure. But then would that also be, we would reduce the parking cap, and then there could also be rain gardens that were installed in place of some of those spaces. Is that what this is also pointing to?
That is not a specific, if that is something you'd like us to look into, I would like you to email me and I can let staff know, we can consider something. So you're talking environmental, see,
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the strategic plan, or the master plan that we just put together, and how one of our goals is to put in native plants, but also to expand the greenery.
I have so I have a different suggestion. Are
Okay.
you familiar with the Bath Township Mire, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they have required landscape islands, we have required landscape islands. For that Mire, they required those to be rain gardens. And they took a couple of years to take off, but if you go there now, they're lush. Working something like that in might be more likely than give us a parking spot and build
Okay.
you know.
So that's what I was thinking about, but I was also thinking about it from the perspective of, like, we have lots of parking lots. We also know that from a drain commission perspective, we're trying to figure out what to do with water. And so this could be one way for us to help mitigate some of that.
You're right.
Okay.
And that's a good example. That's the closest example that I can think of. Just head over there and take a look. Not right now because Saginaw Highway is under construction.
Isn't everywhere under
Oh
construction?
my gosh.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do you still want me to send you an email about this?
Yeah.
All right.
Useless.
Commissioner Bloomer, did you have questions also?
Well, not really a question, just, this would not be something that would actually come directly to the planning commission for implementation. I think if somebody's going to apply for a permit, we would just have to say, and by the way, follow the parking requirements. Is that right? Or, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how we would actually implement what you're showing here.
At the site plan level, so when somebody, let's see, what's a recent? I had a recent, I had to go count parking spots at one of our stores. And the store's in two sections, so I had to count how many does this section require, how many does this section require, and then total them together and how many spots do they have. This is what that would affect, that number. I mean, at the very base level, the thing that you've talked about the most. Yeah, there's landscaping stuff and bicycle stuff and EV stuff, but at the base, where it really takes effect is parking calculations.
So what this will turn into is like a strike bold version of the ordinance with amended sections,
Right.
new sections added and things like that, that'll come before us
It
for review.
Yeah, the parking ordinance is part of the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance, so it will
Okay.
come through the planning commission for a recommendation first.
That's helpful. Does anyone else have questions? I wish that Commissioner McConnell were here because I'm sure he has thoughts on this one. And so when this does come back to us.
Absolutely.
It may be something that we'll
Absolutely.
have additional feedback on, just knowing of his interest in alternative transportation and
Yeah,
pedestrian friendly. I guess that's a question. I don't know if it fits in a parking ordinance, but some of the things as we've talked about special use permits or things like that, he's often talked about the sort of the pedestrian access to sites. Would that be an appropriate thing to include in a parking ordinance if it's related to how parking lots are designed? Or does that go somewhere else?
conceptually, yes. I can't say how yet,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's something we can look at.
And it might be like the placement of the landscape islands or sort of I don't know. I just see that as something if we're trying to encourage alternatives to vehicular traffic. But I don't know how. If you don't know how, I certainly don't know how.
Well, not off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but yeah, like I see where you're going with that. That's something we can look at, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Roberts?
Sorry, I was just saying from like I don't know, this is a personal perspective, but like, how would this affect, or would this affect at all in any way attracting restaurants to areas of the city? Because obviously, the closer you can park to a restaurant, the easier it is to get to, and I would imagine that's probably, if you're somebody looking at opening a restaurant, parking spaces is probably something you're quite interested in. And I'm not saying, to be clear, same thing when you're talking to Commissioner Brooks, this is just spitballing, this is
No,
just,
sure.
Yeah. I'm passionate about restaurants, I'll put it that way. And improving them.
I think in the long run, it's certainly going to help. I don't know what I know, generally speaking, a lot of the required parking numbers are going to go down.
Yeah.
If that goes down, you don't have to build as much infrastructure, or you're going into an existing site and maybe you don't have to worry about expanding it, or maybe you can do some creative stuff with the landscaping in that case. That might entice somebody. At least, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Is one of the goals here is to reduce the amount of parking that we have so that we have more buildable space.
It's not so much you're going to end up with more buildable space, you're going to end up with more green space on a site. Think of our big box stores.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the orange one. That's the poster child we talk about a lot in the office. They have, where all that landscaping stuff goes, those are required parking spots.
Right.
They clearly don't need that much parking that could have, I'm just saying.
Oh, yes, there are so many places where there's too much parking, and there's places where there may be not enough parking.
Yeah, speaking of restaurants, I can think of one restaurant where you have to practically kill somebody to get a parking space. And there have been a couple of times where I wanted to take my family there and we've given up and gone someplace else because you simply can't, because there just simply isn't available parking space. Bag of nails.
Balance. We want balance.
Yeah. Whole bag of nails, you have to bribe somebody to get a
Yeah,
parking
that's,
space.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
But you know there's a parking down below.
So I got a handicap sticker and I take advantage of that.
Not in the township.
Even Anna's house, if you're thinking like right there, I mean, if you try to go there for brunch on a Saturday or Sunday, same thing. I mean, and there's some tight turns gotta make there to get into a spot.
And I'm sure that if they had known in advance how bad the parking situation can be at times, they might have reconsidered placing it there.
Yeah.
So you're right. The parking situation will either enhance or degrade the possibility of attracting new restaurants.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think businesses are going to, they don't want to overbuild and they definitely don't want to underbuild parking. Or find places where they're going to not have an appropriate amount of space that they're anticipating.
Sometimes businesses know themselves better than we do too. Trader Joe's, we have a lot of places in our ordinance where we cap. We say there's a maximum. And Trader Joe's required a variance because they said, no, we want more parking. And I've never heard that before, but they're right. They know their client. They know their clientele. They know what they need. Sometimes they know.
That parking lot is continuously full,
Yeah,
continuously.
they were right. They needed space.
I feel like they've done this before. Another thought on EVs, and again, just spitballing here. When I do not have an EV, if you have one and you charge it at one of those stations, are you charged for that charging? Okay, because here's where I'm going with that. By providing them, would we be taking potential revenue away from a gas station? Would they say, hey, I don't really want you to have that many EVs if...
Not if a gas station doesn't have an EV station.
Right, but
I mean,
but if
I guess
inherently by building one as a township, right, you're essentially saying to the gas station or whoever else may put one, like Eastwood Town Center, right? They have
Okay.
the Tesla line there. You're saying we're taking this opportunity from you.
You mean somebody's going to buy an EV because I can go get it charged for free?
No, I think what I'm saying is you won't charge an EV at a gas station because it'll be separately available elsewhere in the township.
To go back to your original question, the matter of what do they charge?
Yeah.
That ends up being, I think that ends up being the decision of the landowner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like there's up where I live, there's a facility, he's an electrician, and he has a big sign outside saying free EV charging. Okay, that's up to him.
Sure.
But he could certainly put a meter on that at some point. If you're saying, I think the reason you're looking at this is because gas stations haven't been putting
Could be.
EVs
Yeah.
in. I mean, I don't know of a gas station with an EV station. I know stores with EV stations in their parking lots. I've had a couple stores inquire about putting EVs in their parking lot. I haven't had a gas station call and ask.
But they're all pay as you go. Are you talking about free charging?
No, I'm just talking about charging,
Oh, yeah.
whether, whether it's free or not. I mean, I've taken calls from a couple stores. I've not taken a call from a gas station.
I mean, generally from as I understand, gas stations don't make that much revenue off the gas. It's when you get people inside to buy snacks. That's actually the revenue point for a gas station. But like I said, it just dawned on me, and again, since we're just having offhand conversations here, it's like, hey, if you have something that's provided versus something you'd have to pay for, if I'm the person normally that where it would be paid for, I might say, I really don't want you to provide that.
As an EV owner and driver, I'd be rather surprised to find free charging in a parking lot. In a residential facility, that's a different story. I mean, if it's an apartment complex and the manager says, for an extra $5 a month, you can have access to this charging station, that's a different ballgame. But I don't think I've seen a lot of commercial chargers in parking lots,
Yeah.
like in Walmart, that kind of thing. They've got 3 or 4 electric chargers in the parking lot. But it's unusual to the point of almost unheard of that you'll find one just simply free for the taking.
Thank you. I obviously don't have an EV, so I can speak
I'm
to
on my second
experience.
one, so
I wanted to get one, but it was too expensive last time. I did a new car, so.
Any other questions on this now? Do you have any idea how long it'll take you to, like when we might see something, or are you going to come back with more?
We have a new board coming in November. We're in the middle of a manager search. I don't have an ETA.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, cool. So there is still opportunity for others to weigh in on this? if
Oh,
they-
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we are on to item 10A, Township Board Update. If you have anything to share with us on that? Again, Mr. Shorkey, sorry.
I've been trying to talk to Director Schmidt before this meeting to get an update, but things have been so chaotic the last few days. I just haven't had time to touch base with them. The last board meeting, though, was last Thursday, and they approved the SUP for the Sands, right?
Yes.
Yes, they approved the Sands SUP near Jolly Road. They did not approve language for a proposed millage vote for the senior/community center.
I saw that.
So I don't have anything formal, but that's just off the top of my head. Oh, and they passed a liquor ordinance, a liquor license ordinance update. That wasn't a planning commission thing, it's not zoning ordinance, but it is staff reviewed.
Thank you.
I'm getting a lot of calls from the residents on Seneca regarding the property next door to the church. When is that going to the board?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Feasible builders.
You asked Fedewa Builders, the applicant on that rezoning, to organize a community meeting. They have set that up.
Yes, he has reached out.
So it won't go to the board until after that.
Okay, he reached out to the community.
Yes, he did.
Over there.
Yes, he did. It's scheduled for
They're starting
August
to talk
22nd.
with each other.
Instead of throwing bricks. Instead of throwing bricks.
I still get it.
Instead of throwing bricks.
Yes, yes.
So that's the answer. It won't be until after August 22nd.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
He may make changes based on that.
Great. Thank you. Liaison reports. Anybody have anything to report from your?
I had a Downtown Development Authority meeting. They are focused on development of a new welcome to Okemos sign for northbound Okemos Road. They've spent at least 4 months talking about it. They're debating the style and the everything, the price, and they just can't seem to zero in on exactly what it is they want. Now the question is, do they hire an outside firm to design a whole new sign, or do they just use township staff to design it? And they fixed on how much they're willing to pay for outside assistance on that. But that seems to be one of the major topics of conversation at those board meetings.
Is this using the TIF funds that they have access to?
I don't know. They're just, there have been several versions of the sign submitted, and they're closing in on what they want, but now the question is the exact wording and the exact position of the features of the sign. I just sat back and said, yeah, that's your ballgame, just tell me when you're all done. But they have spent an inordinate amount of time discussing that one topic. part of the problem is that particular township agency has trouble getting quorums. They've had several meetings canceled because of lack of quorums. So, that's it.
Keep us posted.
Any other liaison reports to share?
The ZBA got canceled last month, and it got canceled this month, I think. Which is good, because I had a baby. I mean, we, so definitely it didn't have time to do that.
Congratulations.
Barely made it to this one.
Any other, Commissioner Scales, your thing?
Nothing to report from the EDC.
Okay,
We did meet, but there's nothing to report.
got it. Okay, then we will move on to project updates. I see that you included a report in our packet. Does anyone have any?
I did. Changes are highlighted in bold.
Anybody have any questions on any of the things that are included there?
I'll ask about downtown Okemos.
Anything that's not there?
The village of Okemos.
I will second Commissioner Scales asking about downtown.
When I brought that up at the last meeting, I received that information from the property owner's representative. The property is owned by Westpac Corporation,
This is correct.
and they have an on-site representative, Rockwood. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I got that from Rockwood. And what he told me was these numbers that everybody's bantering around are not accurate. He told me that they put this project on indefinite hold because the township was asking more than they felt was reasonable. He told me that it's not just the burying of the wires, that the township wants them to repair Hamilton Road, wants them to repair there's a gas line problem underneath the road. He said that the township wants them to repair that, and they just said they're not going to do it. He said that's just asking too much.
Well, gosh, that's a different story than any of us have gotten. I'm not going to get into it tonight. Because I am still under site plan review, and I have not received any amended site plan.
That's what I got from him. He even drew me a diagram on a napkin.
How long has that property been vacant? 4 years now?
And this project started back in 2015, I want to say. 2014 or 15. Then there was a press conference out there in 2016. And then one of the major partners in that, Douglas Jabe, eventually just backed out of the deal, and there it sits. 8 years later, at least.
I go back to my point on restaurants.
I know, I was
Restaurants need
so
to-
excited about restaurants at that location. So I hope that somebody can see their way clear to getting this moving again at some point, and that we don't have to settle, that we don't end up with something less than.
Right.
You get one chance to do this right, I
Right.
think, so.
Part of the problem, as I saw it, was that the plan that was submitted,
Really?
one of the goals is a walkable, multi-use property. And there was no walkability at all to the plan that they submitted. They just killed it off and said, all right, we'll work around the problem. It was completely contrary to the original concept of what was supposed to go in there. And it was blatantly obvious that it was contrary to it. It wasn't a second-guessing issue.
$6 million, we can buy the land.
Yeah.
On that note.
That would only leave me with 3 or 4, so I'm not,
I don't have that problem.
We are now on to public remarks. This is the last opportunity on this agenda for public remarks. If there's anybody who would like to give public remarks now. Seeing none, we are on to commissioner comments, and Commissioner Scales, I'll let you go first. You said you had something about bylaws?
Yeah, as the, thank you. Chair Schuster. As the secretary of this commission, I took it upon myself to review our bylaws. And what I found on page 4 of our bylaws, under the title, it's section 5.7A in the bylaws, which is under the section titled Meetings.
Correct.
If you scroll down just a little bit, 5.7A.
5.7A, okay.
Yes. So, adoption of the master plan or any part thereof, including extensions, additions, revisions, or other amendments, all of which shall require the affirmative vote of at least 6 members. That was when we had 9 members, and that's indicative of a 2/3 vote. And I think that language should reflect 2/3 instead of 6 members.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Because that would hamper us from making any amendments to our master plan. And then there's a process for making that change. If you go to section 8.1.
Correct.
And I wanted to make sure that we initiate the process as soon as possible in case we have to do any changes to anything. And that's 8.1.
8.1 amendment bylaws, 15-day notice, opportunity for comment. So
there's a 15-day notice that has to go out first.
So I can put this on your September 13th agenda. And doing the math, you get 4.69, and I guess I would round that up to 5, Scad, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think that is a great catch. Thank you for catching that before it mattered.
Just doing my job.
I appreciate that. All righty, any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Scales, seconded by Commissioner Bloomer. All in
I'm sorry, I have one
Yes.
comment. I
Okay.
apologize.
I will pull that. I didn't finish saying it, so it doesn't count yet. Go ahead and make your other comment. And then-
I just want to thank everyone that voted for me in the primary election. We were not successful, but we had a great effort that we put forth, and the outcome is not up to the effort. The outcome is out to the voters, and the voters have spoken, and I respect the vote that was taken, and thank you.
And I will say personally, I'm a little bit pleased that you're sticking with us for a while. No, I support you in 100%, but I'm tired of the township board taking our good members, and I'm glad we still get to keep you for a while, so thank you. All right, now I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Scales, would you like to
I
read?
move to adjourn.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Scales, seconded by Commissioner Bloomer to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 7:37, 7:38.